Welcome to our second debate of the evening. It will be run in the same way that the first one was. Thank you all for coming this evening, and thank you candidates for your willingness to participate. So let me introduce the four candidates for the Board of Finance. To my far right is Democrat Kari Roberts. To her left is Democrat Eric Fenwick. To his left is Republican Kim Healy. And to her left is Republican Matt Raimondi. And now to the debate, and the first candidate to respond to the first question will be Ms. Roberts. And the question is, local headlines have highlighted a number of financial, accounting, procedural, and legal issues in our town government. How do you make sure we don't have a repeat of these issues, and that we get Wilton on a better path going forward? Ms. Roberts.
Okay, I wanted to thank everyone for coming tonight.
Do pull the microphone closer to you. You do have to have it close.
Sorry, is that working?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you everybody for coming tonight. I appreciate it, your time. And I guess upon reading everything in Good Morning Wilton and going back and looking at historic pieces and stuff like that, to me it seems like the number one glaring issue with what happened at Town Hall is a complete lack of supervision and oversight. It seems like there were org charts going way back when that laid out who was responsible for what, and it seems like it was structured well, and it kind of I don't know, people didn't pay attention, I guess. So for me, I worked 21 years on Wall Street, and I was responsible for closing large $100 million and multi-billion-dollar deals, transactions, and my strength was in getting the job done. And we would have time and responsibility, documents pages long, and to have something slip through the cracks the way these things have recently, to me is very shocking. There's no other way to put it. And so how I would address that is I think I would attempt to have better lines of communication, better supervision. There needs to be, there were clear lines of reporting, but it seems like they weren't followed and nobody was paying attention, really, sort of. So I guess what I would do, again, is to the extent the charter allows it, that I would insert myself in the process and expect much more communication, regular updates, and also I'm a firm believer in liking who you work with. So you're working with these people. How's it going? What's new? Where's the problems? Getting feedback. But it just seems like there was a complete, vacuum of oversight. So I would do everything in my power to remedy that. And again, I made a career off of doing that, so I think I'd be very good at it. Mr. Family?
It was a mega disaster, it was a fiasco. But I'm going to take a slightly different position. The Board of Finance has a very tough job, and it's done by 5 volunteers. They spend a lot of time going through the budgets, about $145 million, making sure we're fiscally responsible, setting guidelines. I don't think it's the Board of Finance's bandwidth to supervise day-to-day the employees of the town. We have a reporting structure. Maybe the Board of Finance people should say, hey, our CFO is always on Zoom, why is that? But again, if we are going to have lanes, and we stick to our lanes and stick to our responsibilities, at the end of the day, it wasn't the Board of Finance that messed this up. So that's pretty much all I have to say on that.
Okay. Ms. Healy?
So, I actually was going to start with that as well, so I won't finish that. But I will tell you, as a member of the Board of Selectmen these last 4 years, I am also shocked by what has happened this last year. From the Board of Selectmen's perspective, we do not manage the day-to-day operations of Town Hall either. But we do have tools in the toolbox through the charter that could have been used to help the process along and bring more transparency to the public. I attempted to do that, as you all know. I'm sure you've read about me a lot in Good Morning Wilton, and not because I chose to do it or because I wanted to do it, but because it's required and it's necessary that you understand what's going on. Did we always get it right? Did I always get it right? No. And did you always get all the information either? But from the Board of Finance's perspective, one of the biggest issues is we have a material weakness in our audit. Now, the Board of Finance does supervise and manage the audit process, and we can do a better job with that moving forward. We can engage the auditors more. We can continue on with the process review that we were going to start, and then we lost our CFO. Tagging back to the CFO being on Zoom, there's a lot of meetings at night. So for her to be on Zoom was not unreasonable. She started her day very early when she was in person. What has transpired over the last year, there was some personal issues which brought her away from the office, and she was permitted to work remotely, just so you know. It wasn't a lack of oversight on our part at the time. But we meet twice a month, and as she proceeded to be away, obviously we became more concerned, and then obviously the news hit, and we were informed. I think at the previous debate mentioned, we were literally at a Board of Selectmen meeting and the news dropped. So the Board of Finance can use the powers that it has to help the budgeting process along. We can help with the reporting, and we can certainly help with the process review and the audit committee.
Mr. Raimondi?
My name is Matt Raimondi. I'm currently the chair of the Board of Finance. And so as I think about the different action items which have happened in Town Hall, specifically in the Finance Department,
level is really the way to make Connecticut or Wilton more affordable.
Mr. Raimondi?
sure. So as I think about the question, there's actually a straightforward answer to the question, but to answer it more holistically. Based on the Board of Finance's role, our job is to set budgets. It's not to control the grant list. It's not to control what comes in. So if the question is how do we keep costs down, it's to control the budgets. The answer is that simple. But I'll give you a more holistic view. How do we set our taxes, right? What is the answer? It's our grant list. What is the grant list? It is the value of all of the property in Wilton. Right now our grant list is $5.8 billion. During revaluation 2 years ago, the reason why we saw a major shift is the relative value of our residential property to our commercial property went from 77% to 80%, a 3% shift. That 3% shift is why all of us saw relatively high relative tax increases. So the way to get it down, again, it's made depending on your viewpoint. People have different views here, but it's development. And again, that does not sit with the Board of Finance. I'm not even sure if that's it for P&Z, right? Just people coming in. But it's to have more people move here. Right, as an example, 141 Danbury Road, which is it's a new apartment complex that came in. By the time it's fully occupied, that's going to add about $1.5 million new dollars to Wilton's grant list. That is $1.5 million that all of us here do not have to pay. That is the way that you shift it down. It's by pulling people in. Now, aside from that, again, that's not part of what the Board of Finance can control. What we control is budgets. And so that's where it comes to, I'll say, fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline means as the budgets come in, it's making sure that we're spending not more than we have to. Right? Yes, we need to spend money. Our teachers, they need to be paid. Our employees in Town Hall, they need to be paid. But it's making sure we have an eye on that. And that's how we control the mill rate growth.
Ms. Roberts?
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Surely. How, excuse me, how can the town reduce the tax burden on homeowners relative to commercial properties?
Okay, so I agree with Matt, what he was saying, and I think Kim and probably Eric said the same thing, that it's not the Board of Finance's job to do that, that we can't jigger the balance between commercial and residential. That's not, we can't affect that really. We can't technically, but I do think where I differ maybe is that I think we can help with it if we coordinate more with the Board of Selectmen and P&Z and have kind of, a co-op of maybe meet once a month or something with the Board of Finance, the Board of Selectmen, and P&Z to figure out how do we recruit, how do we more aggressively recruit businesses, commercial businesses to Wilton. And while multifamilies are good, and I agree with that, and I think with Riverview, people looked at it like the boogeyman, but we got far less students that people were afraid we were going to get, so I don't think it's the boogeyman. I think
high-density housing in the right area on Route 7, I think is a good thing. But back to more aggressively courting businesses, I know that ASML, they bought Perkin Elements in 2000, I think, and then they did a large expansion, I think, in 2010, and that expansion was due to a Wiltonite, Peter Benius, who was the CEO of Advanced CT, who worked very hard with, he represented Advanced CT, but I'm sure worked with probably the first select woman and others to figure out to make this palatable, their expansion here. So I think there's things we could do if we work together with the Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and P&Z to, work harder with Advanced CT, which I don't think anyone talks to them right now, or, are there some tax packages that make it attractive to come here, or which not a tax break because we want their tax revenue, obviously. But, how could we I think we could brainstorm better about how to work together more aggressively to attract commercial businesses. And, ASML, they represent 3% of our tax revenue, and they, I think, complained for a long time about they needed more trained employees and how do they train them, and I noticed recently they have now a big van or a bus that they bring and they train their people in the parking lot in this bus. So how could we as a town help, hey, I don't know, just, either attract a vocational school or a satellite office of a college, like UConn Stores is in Stanford, how about one in Wilton or something like that? But I just think we could be, I'm not saying it's possible, but I think we could be a little more dynamic in trying to attract more businesses here.
Any other comment on that question? Okay, then Ms. Healy, you're first to respond to the next one. After multiple senior finance departures and an interim CFO, what concrete steps will you take in the next 6 to 12 months to stabilize staffing? And how would you clarify CFO versus town administrator roles?
That's really a Board of Selectmen question. I don't know.
I'm only reading the questions I
Okay.
get. If you don't have any
I can answer it as a Board of Selectmen. It's going to be difficult.
No, then obviously we would want.
Would you agree?
I agree, at the board of selectmen issue.
Yeah.
It's not.
Sorry.
No, don't, no
Sorry,
need to
making it hard
apologize to
one,
me. I didn't do it.
Well,
No, but I think if there is, yeah, if you
Okay,
have
so
something
you
to
know
say
what, we can
about it.
answer it. That's fine.
well,
Sure.
yeah, I think I was next. So I
Okay,
think,
yeah.
well, actually,
I'm first.
First was Kim.
Yeah. Okay. So can you repeat the question then?
Yeah,
Try
yes.
to answer it.
After multiple senior finance departures and an interim CFO, what concrete steps will you take in the next 6 to 12 months to stabilize staffing? And how would you clarify CFO versus town administrator
Yeah.
roles?
So, I'll try to answer it as a candidate, but also from my personal perspective, and also as a member of both the town administrator and the CFO search committee member. It was certainly not anything anyone expected to lose both the controller and the CFO, and we're losing our town administrator all at the same time in a year where we've had lots of challenges. So what can I do? I can promise you that the CFO and the town administrator search committees are doing our absolute best to make sure that the next CFO and town administrator are the best that we can find in the tri-state area. We're actually going to expand it, I think, to a national search at this point. We can use the temporary CFO. We met him on Zoom. We Board of Selectmen sat back, but we got to hear from him, and I think at our next Board of Selectmen meeting, we will get to meet him and ask our own questions about what's going on as it relates to the Board of Selectmen. There's a discussion that I think wasn't had and needs to be had about the town administrator. As we see what's transpired over the last few years, there's been a lot of issues with that role and the CFO and who's doing what. We did expand the job description of the town administrator to include more financial experience, and it was quite funny to me, at least, and I think others in the room, when our current town administrator says he doesn't even have the skills to qualify for the job that we are searching for at this time. But we've learned a lot. again, over the last few years, Dawn has only, or the previous CFO was only here for a few years as well. I've been on the Board of Selectmen the entire time that both people have been in office and have learned, you know, the different aspects of their jobs and what we require as a Board of Selectmen to get things done appropriately. We have really struggled with that this year, and I can assure you that when the candidates come in, that we are asking them the really hard questions about how they would deal with the issues that we've had, the issues that we foresee, and to make sure that they will work collaboratively with the boards and run our departments to the best of their ability.
Do you have anything to add?
Sure. So I think we partially answered this when we were talking in the first question about the CFO. So again, the direct answer is the Board of Selectmen oversees personnel and oversees hiring and oversees terminations. That's the direct answer. But more broadly than that, the Board of Finance is there to provide support, right? And so there were certain instances over the last 2 years since I became chairman when there's some gaps that needed to be filled to help our town administrator and to help our CFO. I mentioned the debt service earlier. We talked about the revaluation process. When I first became chairman, my very first month on the job, Wilton saw the highest spike in its grant list ever. And the resources just weren't in town hall to figure that out. So I rolled up my sleeves and I did it, right? We're not involved in overseeing staff, but when I see a problem, I run in there, I fix it to the best of my ability, and that's what I will continue to do going forward. Now, as it relates to working with either the CFO or the town admin has been, I want to say he's attended almost all of our Board of Finance meetings. Even now, I know he's transitioning out, but he still attends, so that is oversight. We talk with him directly, the same with the CFO before she departed as well. So it is a partner of ours. All I would say is the decision about whether or not to have a town admin or CFO or and a CFO, my view is both roles provide tremendous value. As we think about the experience that Wilton has had recently, I think there's a way to bifurcate some of the responsibilities so there's no duplications. Again, that is a role of the Board of Selectmen, but historically the Board of Finance has been willing to provide the resources necessary to fund that. And I want to underline that. Like I consider myself a proponent of fiscal responsibility. I really do not like taxing people. So if I have to, it better be with a good return in mind. And last year, when we heard about the issues in the finance department, we asked our former CFO, do you need more money? Do you need more resources here? What can we give you to make this work? And she told us it was fully staffed. Well, she told us the money was there to be fully staffed. It actually wasn't fully staffed, but she told us that the money was there, and then we approved the budget. But we are willing to do what it takes to support our friends and colleagues on the Board of Selectmen and in town hall.
Ms. Rogers? Okay.
Thank you. I think, again, I agree with everybody up here that it's not the Board of Finance's job to hire, the town administrator and the CFO, and now 2 CFOs. I assume we're going with the Board of Ed one, which we have, and a new Board of Select one, town one. I guess just the question, though, I think was about how the town administrator and the CFO overlap, and do we need them each? I think that was the question.
How would you clarify the CFO versus town administrator roles?
Okay, right. So it's not my job it's none of our job to clarify that, but in kind of digging around on the website, because it is a cumbersome website that's clunky and it's hard to find stuff, but going back to 2022, the former first select woman did do, and I don't know if I'm allowed to use visual aids, but she did do a really good job of laying out kind of where she was before there was a town administrator. This is everything that she did. And then if she got a town administrator, this is what she would do, and this is what the town administrator would do. So I know you probably can't see it, but this box is the town administrator that would answer up to the first select woman, and then this is everything that the town administrator would do. So it would basically chop this chart in half. And I think it's just important to realize that, because the point of the town administrator when Lynn Vanderslice proposed it back in 2021 or 2022 was so that it would elevate the first select person up a level so that that person could focus on working with WestCog, and I think it's Southwestern Connecticut Regional Planning Committee or something like that. But the whole point of the town administrator was to let the first select woman free her up to work on behalf of Wilton at a regional and state level, which would bring us more benefits, such as in, I think, garbage, like working together to lower the costs on garbage removal and where that would go and things like that. So I think my opinion, and again, it has nothing to do with the Board of Finance, but I think the town administrator is a necessary job, and I do think the first select person should be doing that, and hopefully they are. I'm not sure if that's happening or not. But, and I guess, and then the town administrator would do all of this and have 2 CFOs reporting up to it. So I do think it was actually laid out really well, but I think somehow along the road, nobody bothered to adhere to it anymore. I think, not nobody, but it just got a little loose. And so that's my opinion. And I just think if there's more communication with the Board of Finance, that especially with the material deficiencies in the fiscal year 2024 financials, that we were made aware of that, I think, in early January, that should have been a laser focus. And it seems like, and I get it, I hear you loud and clear that you asked Dawn if she needed more money, and she said no, everything was fine, but it just seems, yeah, it's unfortunate that everything was not fine. So that's all I have to say.
Mr. Fenner?
Again, agree with my, the other candidates here. It's not our day-to-day responsibility. But if I could advise the Board of Selectmen what to do, one is make sure that the job recs are very well defined. You do have to bring an HR expert to do it. Town administrator and a good CFO should be able to save us more money than we spend on them. A town administrator, I believe, or a town manager is a profession, and we should be looking for someone who has those professional credentials, whether that be, say, an assistant town manager at a town larger or about the same size, or a town manager administrator from a smaller town. But this is a profession, and we should be looking for someone professionally. It's my understanding also that the Board of Ed is looking to get their own CFO. There used to be 2 positions, and we're looking to split. So the CFO for the town will be now reduced to 1/3 of the budget that they used to be responsible for, being that about 2/3, am I correct, Matt? About 2/3 is part of education. So again, the CFO, we should be looking for maybe not someone as experienced as the last one, because it's theoretically a smaller job, but they are still 2 distinct jobs. And I will trust the Board of Selectmen to handle this situation properly, and maybe even hire a professional recruiter to get the people we need, because again, a person, we'll spend a lot of money on a recruiter, but getting the right person should save us more than it'll cost us.
All right, a number of these questions.
Sorry, can I just jump in?
Absolutely.
I agree with everything Eric said. To go back to that Kari had said, just to set the record straight. So the audit we did not get in January. The audit was finalized in April or May. Once it was finalized and we saw the material weakness, we immediately had a conversation with our CFO. We then, at that point, proposed a follow-on session. I think it was in June, at the June Board of Finance meeting. We're going to have a follow-up for how to move forward and correct the material weakness, which was related to journal entries. It was following that point they were going to set up the process review committee, which was scheduled to start in July. And then, as we all know, our CFO was no longer our CFO. So the timeline started a little bit later, but the Board of Finance took immediate corrective action. That corrective action is ongoing. We had our first meeting with the interim CFO last night, which was the first time that our CFO was introduced to the town. We asked him directly about the material weakness. He told us that he is in the process of correcting any mistakes. He's not anticipating any further issues going forward, at least on that front. So we are focused on it and well ahead.
Fair enough, and you know better than I on that. I guess though, just in reading Good Morning Wilton today, their article, they said, I thought the new, I hope I got this right, that Mr. Santafanti, the interim CFO, said that we should expect material deficiencies on the fiscal year 2025 audited financials also, correct?
Is that a question today?
Yeah, well, that's what he said. He did say that. I think if Good Morning Wilton quoted him correctly, then we will have had a material deficiency for fiscal year 2024, and he said that he is forget his words, I could look it up, I have it in here, but he said that in all likelihood, we should expect material deficiencies in the fiscal year 2025 audited financials also.
So I was at that meeting.
Yes.
Based on what he said, so yes, there are issues that we're working through. His comment was in the context of, we didn't have a CFO for a month and a half, right? And so he's coming in there to fix things. So yes, there are still issues that Town Hall and the Finance Department is working through. But you had made a comment before that we're not focused on it. My comment was, we are very focused on it, laser focused. And look, to the extent that some of the issues from last year continue, we'll just make sure we have the right resources in place to fix it. And we're committed to working with our partners in the Board of Selectmen and in Town Hall to make sure that happens.
Nice. One last thing, I'm not trying to criticize Board of Finance. I guess personally, I think the oversight, again, you had a CFO, and then you had a town administrator, and you had a first select person. And together, those people's salaries is a lot of money, and I don't understand how that 3 layers let it slip through, I guess is more my issue.
That's a question for the
Go
first
ahead.
selectman.
Yes, I understand that, I just wanted to point it out. that
I'm not planning on it.
It's a lot of salaries and for a lot of stuff slipping through the cracks, and I understand that that's not board finance, I get that.
Did you have? Okay, ready for the next one? And I will say several of these questions are the same as were posed for the Board of Selectmen, so I don't know in terms. So we'll get your comments on them if you can, and if there is a Board of Finance component to it. What would be your top priorities for facility maintenance and/or repairs in Wilton for the next couple of years? And what results would you expect to see during that time period? I would presume you might answer that on the basis of budgeting for those things.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Ramondo, you're first.
Got it. So as I think about the facility, so in addition to my role as chair of the Board of Finance, I also sit on the Capital Planning Committee. And I also chaired and led a new fund called the fund named Capital and Non-Recurring Expenditures Fund. I'll kind of touch on all of those in a second. The direct role of the Board of Finance is to make sure that the money is in place to pay for all the issues, well, to pay for all the needs that we have. And so if you rewind, what are those needs? So we received 2 reports at this point, probably 2 years ago. One on the Board of Selectmen side, the net cost was about $136 million. There was $26 million of net reimbursement that we were expected to receive from the state, so it got down to, I think, around 100 or 101 million. We additionally received a second report on the Board of Selectmen. I think that came to like $20 or $30 million plus or minus. The net cost was 150. There was a $200 million thrown out there, you may have seen it in the press. That includes other bonding projects we have, such as roads, bridges, things like that. So how are we going to pay for it all? And I'll start by saying, I've been in this role for 4 years now, I've been chairing the board for 2 years. I'm not concerned about it. We have 10 to 15 years to pay for this, and as long as we plan well in advance, this will not be a problem. So how are we going to do it? So on the bonding side, this was mentioned in the last debate as well. I put together an analysis last night during our budget guidance debate, and I looked at the tail of our debt service. Think of our debt service as how much are we paying back each year to service our loans. We are going to be done with our debt by 2046. If we just replace the debt that's coming off each year with new debt, don't even raise the debt level. Just keep it the same. No impact to taxpayers whatsoever. We can raise $100 million over the next 15 years. Now, budgets, unfortunately, grow over time. So if we assume that budgets grow 3%, we're going to keep our debt service in line with that. We can fund about $130 million over the next 15 years. That covers a massive chunk of it. Now let's get back to the fund that I was talking about earlier. We created a new fund, or rather, we have the approval to create. A special town meeting needs to come in to vote on it. But what this new fund will do is we're going to take money that we already have, money that's in our reserves that we don't spend each year, money from budget savings, and we're going to put it in this new fund. My rough calculations are we're going to put in about between $1 and $2 million per year over the next 15 years. You do the quick math, my math is about $15 to $30 million that we're going to put into this fund over the next 15 years. With that, we can pay for all of these projects. So the role of the Board of Finance is to work with our partners on the other boards to make sure that the things we're spending are actually priorities and to have the money in place to spend it. And under my leadership, we have a plan in place to do that.
Ms. Roberts?
Can you repeat the question again, please?
Sure. What are your priorities for facility maintenance and/or repairs in Wilton for the next couple of years? And what results would you expect to see during that time period?
Okay. So I guess my priorities, just to answer the question, and again, I'm not sure it's Board of Finance, but my personal priorities as a taxpayer would be, I guess the schools would come first, but I haven't seen the whole list, but, and Ambler Farm is a high priority for me, and I haven't seen what the whole list is, but, you know, fixing the school is a high priority, and so is Ambler Farm. So that's the question. In terms of what Matt said, I would say that that's very good to hear. It makes me happy, and I worked on a bond desk for 21 years, so I'm very familiar with everything you just said. It makes total sense, and I think it's wonderful. And I also read your 4-page presentation of your fund, and it looks great, and I'm all for it.
Mr. Gangman?
Again, what Matt said was brilliant, but I'm going to let you elicit why I ran for Board of Finance. This past year, we bonded the snowplow. We bonded the snowplow as presented at the town meeting because Board of Finance gave Board of Selectmen a guidance, and Board of Selectmen, to get under that guidance, decided to bond the snowplow. Now, the reason that annoyed me so much is we buy a snowplow every year, and we pay for it every year. We have 15 snowplows. One gets retired, one's in reserve, and now this new snowplow we're going to be paying for the next 10 years. So if we do that every year now because we can't find that type of money, we're going to be spending 30%, 40% more on our snowplows than we need to. So I would like to see, say, yearly maintenance, things like the road paving we do every year, be paid for by ongoing expenses because we do this every year. I was told one time we bond the repaving because we don't have the discipline to make sure we spend the money on repaving, and they actually, in I think it was the 08, 09 time frame, because budgets were so tight, they just stopped repaving roads at all. So the solution was to bond these things. I think we need to start thinking about maintenance that we do yearly, be paid for on a yearly basis, to save our bonding capacity for the big projects. I think that's what it's there for. So that's how I would see it. And if you kind of agree with me, I hope you'll support me.
Stephen?
It's very hard to follow Matt Raimondi for that answer.
Ain't that the truth?
So I'm going to just tag on to it and say, you know, it's all about planning and priorities, right? So a few years ago, the Board of Selectmen took the project on to determine what our long-term needs were for our town buildings. And we found out through a shock, that it was going to be very, very expensive, that a lot of our buildings are aging and need a lot of work. And so we set up, 2 years ago, we set up the Capital Planning Committee, which I now sit on. I did not sit on it last year. I would say it got off to a slightly rocky start. It's a big undertaking, right? The reports are huge. There's like one for each building. It's a lot to sift through. And in fact, I should just back that up and say the task really fell on the Board of Selectmen. And I know I can only speak for myself, but I was horrified to think that that was going to be something we were going to be able to even get done ourselves, without meeting every day for the rest of the year. So we started, we voted to set up this committee. It is the members, we have Board of Ed, we have Board of Finance, we have Board of Selectmen, and we have members of the public. And we also bring in our DPW people, we bring in a maintenance person from the school. And last year was more about just figuring out what were the urgent needs that needed to get brought to the town at the last town meeting. This year, and hope, one of my goals would be to really dig into the numbers and come up with a solution. We know we have the bonding capacity. It's just all about determining what the priorities are and the needs are, right? I am a big believer in maintenance. I would rather maintain a building than have to build a new one or have to do significant renovations to it in the future. So, I've been working on hopefully guiding that process along through the capital planning committee. And, we are going to start talking about what we're going to ask the town to pay for in fiscal 27 or for fiscal 27. That just brings me back to a comment that was made earlier, just so you know. Town hall has its problems, as we know. But 2 years ago, the people in this room and the people at this table approved $1.5 million to fix the leaky windows, the heating problems, the front steps, and the pillars. So, the money's there. The work hasn't been done because we have prioritized other projects over the town hall renovations. But, thanks to you, that work will get done and we will have a better work environment for our town employees.
Anything else on that question? All right, and this next one will have to be our last before we move to, and here's a simple question. What would you want Wilton to look like 10 years from now? And Ms. Roberts, you're first.
Okay, thank you.
Perhaps there's one or two things you'd like to see.
Okay, I'd like to see a vibrant downtown. That I think we have the apartments coming online across from the post office, the ones next to Village Market. We have Kimco. There's going to be a huge influx of people to the downtown area. And even this summer on a Wednesday during the farmers market, when people are out of town on summer school vacations, it was packed downtown, and parking's hard to find, and people, I watched two fender benders happen. I'm like, wow, we have like almost 300 maybe new apartments coming online in this quarter-acre area. How's that going to work with all those cars? So I think in 10 years, what I want to see is a very well-planned-out, thoughtful, vibrant downtown, because we're going to have a lot of people here, and I think it can be a great area. I love, as someone said in the last debate, valuing our outdoor aspect of it all. We're a farming, traditionally, historically farming town that we like open spaces. So in 10 years, I'd like to see us have a vibrant downtown, lots of open spaces around the town, development around the Route 7 corridor, and a really nice budget with not overwhelming debt. That's what I'd like to see. Thank you.
Mr. Fenwick, what would you like? What
I like
would
that.
you like to see?
I like the not overwhelming that part.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I was at Weir Farm. For those of you who may not be aware, it's kind of the highest point in Wilton. I was speaking to the park ranger there. It's the only national historic site in Connecticut. I don't know about the parks. And he told me something that blew my mind away. He told me that when the Weirs were painting their art there, that you could see Long Island Sound. That meant there were no trees. There was no trees because everything was farmland. If you walk through the Norfolk River Valley Trail, you'll see stone walls in the middle of the woods. Why are there stone walls? Because, again, this used to be farmland. So people who tell me Wilton should stay the way it is don't understand how much has changed relatively quickly. While I agree there's a Wilton vibe, it does evolve. Part of that evolution is bringing some more dense housing in because we need the population to maintain things like the Wilton Market and Stop and Shop and the restaurant. Without more population, Wilton Center will wither up and die. Won't remain what it is. So again, I want to see us to continue to evolve naturally with planned growth, and just move on from there. So I think we're in a good position where we are, and we're just evolving naturally.
Ms. Heaton?
So, when I was on the library board back in 2018 or so, they did a town survey, and the NRVT came in at number 1, and the library came in at number 2. As we sit in the library space, this is still one of the best boards I've ever been on. and I cherish this building and everything that it does. And as well, I did understand why the NRBT was so popular, because it's amazing, and we're really fortunate to have it. And when it makes its way all the way up to Danbury, it'll be just an amazing resource for everyone here. You know, people talk about our downtown. I like our stores that we have, right? I shop at them. I have friends that come from New Canaan to Wilton for some of our stores. Not a lot, we don't have a lot. But the ones we have, we should be you know, using more often, right? We should stay in town, and we should support them because they support us. I love the fact that they moved the farmers market to Town Green, away from the Historical Society. No offense to them, but I just think it is much more available, and it's a reminder, you know, you happen to be going through, you remember, oh gosh, it's Wednesday, which is, you know, it's Wednesday already. So, and really, at the end of the day, I'm a CPA and a finance person at heart, and so, you know, I'm gonna agree that keeping our town fiscally sound and appropriate is really the way to move Wilton forward.
Mr. Mwande?
As I think about that question, I mean, to me the question is, why am I running, right? Which stamp do I want to leave on Wilton that hopefully will still be here in the next 10 years? And for me, it starts with, you know, I love Wilton. I'm from here, I grew up here, I went to all the schools. My brother played guitar on the stage, you know, the year of the flood. And that's why I'm here. That's true of everyone else on the stage too. That's why we're all dedicating our time to do this. I love the downtown, right? I'd like to see it more vibrant. I think that's great. I would agree with what everyone said. But as I think about the Board of Finance, I think there are some things that we've instituted over the last 2 to 4 years that my sincere hope gets continued over the next decade. Right? There are the processes that I talked about earlier. Right? We've got this debt service that we need to accomplish. We have the tools and the process in place to deal with it. I hope that all gets carried forward. So that this mountain that we're dealing with now, it ends with this generation. Because in the future, they'll have the fund. They'll have my model, right? All they got to do is roll it forward. And so they can focus on the vision of Wilton versus fixing some of the broken things. That's my sincere hope. And I think second, we didn't talk about it, but when I became chairman, one of my big goals on the Board of Finance was transparency and accountability. And there was a couple of things that we did to drive that forward. We put out a survey every year. I put out newsletters that come out probably 5 or 6 times a year during the budget season. I speak with all the civic groups in town, and I speak with the RTC, I speak with the DTC, and there's no holds barred. Ask me any question you want, I work for you. Happy to answer any question. And I hope that continues for our future leaders as well, because I think it's really important that all of us on the stage, we are you, right? We pay taxes too. When we raise taxes, it also hurts us. And so I want to make sure there's still that. I believe that bond is there. I hope that it continues. And then lastly to that, when I became chairman, a big goal was just camaraderie and harmony among the boards. And so historically, you know, sometimes the Board of Finance, we went and did our thing, and Board of Education did their thing, and the Board of Selectmen did their thing, and they were all separate in silos, and 9 times out of 10 there's disagreement, and sometimes volatile disagreement. Disagreement is okay, it's natural, it's a good thing. But it should happen in a harmonious manner. So one of the things that I did is try and bring all the groups together. And so having one conversation, because ultimately we're 3 boards, but we're one Wilton, and try to have one government. I hope that mantra and that vision continues.
Okay, it's time for closing statements. You are each have 2 minutes, and I'll ask our timers to get organized. And Ms. Roberts, you are the first. Are you ready, Tom? Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right, I'll try to be brief anyway, because it's been a long night. I'm Kari Roberts. I have lived in town for 26 years. My husband is not born here, but he's raised here. He came here when he was like 2 years old or something. My mother-in-law lived in this town for 45 years. She was a small business owner in the town and also an ambulance driver for WEVAC. My husband and I raised our children in this town, and they went through the school system. So it's fair to say that I love Wilton, as with all of us. That's why we're sitting here. And I guess I would just say that about myself, I had a 21-year career on Wall Street in finance where I purchased, sold, and securitized tens of billions of dollars worth of residential mortgage loans, also home equity loans, reverse mortgages for the older demographic. I securitized portfolios of commercial airlines, jet aircraft engines, MRI machines, anything with a cash flow. So I am extremely competent in that. I have, and I think I bring a lot to the table. I made a career off of getting difficult jobs done, and I stand ready to work for Wilton. And, I've done a lot of volunteer stuff here in town, and I love the town, and I think I'm very qualified to be on the Board of Finance, and I'll work very hard for you. So I hope I have your vote on November 4th.
Mr. Fenwick, your 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for having this forum tonight, and the library for providing the venue. Also, I'd like to give my kudos to everyone who stepped forward to run for office, because Wilton can't survive without people doing this work. What I think distinguishes me from my opponents is I grew up in data analytics rather than, say, a financial background. I have a way of looking at numbers that I think is different than, say, a financial person. If you want to do a comparison, think Moneyball if you're a baseball fan. So trying to find the hidden meaning of value. I think that distinguishes me. That is my day job, doing data analytics for Charter and Stanford. Again, also, my background is...
Oh my gosh.
And that's a wrap.
That's
That's
it.
a wrap.
Use our phones? Like super when you walk like the Oscars.
I felt the hook.
We won't get that out of your
That's I think are my qualifications. Also, I've lived in town for 26 years with my wife, 4 kids. I graduated from the Wilton High Schools. When my wife and I, who are both from the area, looked around for the different towns, we felt there was only one choice, and that was Wilton. We feel it's very low key here. We love being here. I've been involved in government for 20 years, thanks to the faith of the voters of Wilton, and I hope to continue that work for Wilton.
Thank you. Ms. Healy?
So yeah, thank you to my fellow table members and to everyone here for taking the time to be part of this conversation about Wilton's future, and to everyone who made this evening possible. I'm running for the Board of Finance because I believe that sound, responsible financial management is the foundation of everything we value in this town. Our excellent schools, town services, beautiful open spaces, and the overall quality of life that makes Wilton such a remarkable community. As a retired CPA, former auditor, I spent my career digging into the details, analyzing budgets, asking tough questions, and making sure money is used responsibly and transparently. Numbers have always mattered to me, but not just because they add up. It's because behind every dollar are people, families, seniors, small business owners who count on us to make smart, careful decisions with their tax dollars. For the last 4 years, I've had the privilege of serving on the Board of Selectmen. That role gave me the opportunity to put my experience to work, helping to shape reasonable town budgets, strengthen financial controls, and increase oversight of major projects like the new police headquarters. When our town audit raised concerns about financial practices, I pushed for corrective action, clear policies, more transparency, and when something didn't look right, I spoke up because accountability matters. If I'm elected to the Board of Finance, I'll bring that same commitment and energy. My priorities are clear. First is fiscal discipline. Every dollar we spend should be thoughtfully considered. Transparency. Residents deserve to know how decisions are made and where their money goes. And third, long-term planning, because we need to think not just about this year's budget, but about the future we're building for our kids and the future generations. I am very proud of my track record as a CPA community volunteer and select woman who's never been afraid to roll up her sleeves and do the work. This isn't about politics, it's about service, stewardship, and keeping Wilton strong, stable, and sustainable. I'd be honored to earn your vote for the Board of Finance, because together we can make sure Wilton's finances stay sound, transparent, and responsibly managed, not just for today, but the future we build together. Thanks.
Thank you, and Mr. Marumon.
Thank you very much to the moderator, to the library, to my fellow candidates, and to all of you as well for being here on a Wednesday night. Over the last several years, serving as your chair of the Board of Finance has been a tremendous honor. Wilton isn't just where I live, it's where I was raised, it's where I went to school, and it's where I chose to move back with my wife Kristen to settle down. I have a stake in Wilton's future, not just as a candidate asking for your vote, and I am asking for your vote, but as a neighbor and a citizen who expects accountability, prudence, and integrity from town leadership. Now, Wilton's at a pivotal moment right now. Our town is facing rising infrastructure costs, growing service demands, and constant pressure to keep the taxes manageable. But I believe that in these challenges lies an opportunity. The chance to set a path that respects taxpayers and builds for tomorrow. Now, I approach the town's finances with fiscal discipline because no town can afford unchecked spending or surprise burdens. Every line item, every mill rate decision must withstand scrutiny, and I've proven over the last 4 years that I'm willing to do that. I also believe deeply in long-range planning. We've heard some of that tonight. Good governance means anticipating the cost of roads, schools, and services, and making decisions today that prepare us for the future. And I've shown that commitment during my time on the board. Transparency and accountability are just as important. You all deserve to see the numbers, to ask the questions, and hopefully to trust the process. I pushed for resident surveys, I've held open forums, I've sent out newsletters, and I've strived to send out clear communications about how your tax dollars are being spent. And I'll continue to do that work. And finally, I believe in protecting taxpayers and investing wisely. My goal is balance, to hold tight where we must, and invest smartly where the return benefits every citizen. My name is Matt Raimondi. I'm proud to call Wilton home. I respectfully ask for your vote and your trust to continue this work together. Thank you.
All right, please join me in thanking our candidates.